Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive.
Oh,
Today we're going to be talking about traditional interior design.
excellent.
And, this is based on an article someone shared with us called Traditional Interior Design, Embracing Classic Furniture, Symmetry, Rich Colors, and Detailed Moldings.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so, we know you're interested in it, and we're going to kind of dig into it and really try to, explore the historical roots,
hmm
the different defining characteristics, and then even some modern twists
Yeah,
that you might not have thought about.
because traditional design can feel a little like a time machine in a way.
Right.
It draws a lot from European history, especially periods like the Victorian, Georgian, and federal styles.
I see.
And they all really emphasize things like, really great craftsmanship,
Yeah.
symmetry in the design, and a kind of a sense of luxury and opulence even.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fascinating to see how those elements still resonate with us today.
Yeah, and I've always been curious about this, but do you have like a favorite historical period that kind of influences your work?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because I know for me, I kind of go back and forth depending on how I'm feeling that day or what project I'm working on. So I'm always curious how other designers sort of make those decisions.
I think for me, I'm particularly drawn to the Victorian era
Oh, interesting.
with all those details and layers and the texture. But really, I try to appreciate what each period brings to the table.
Hmm.
I think the common thread, though, really is that focus on quality and respecting the history of those design elements.
Yeah, and speaking of quality, when you think of traditional design, like certain furniture pieces kind of immediately come to mind.
Right.
It's not just any old couch or chair. So, like, what are some of those pieces that really signal this is a traditional space?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is like a really grand dining room
Oh, yeah.
with an antique table, maybe a Chippendale or a Queen Anne style, crafted from mahogany.
Ooh.
And then surrounding that, you might have elegant chairs upholstered in a really nice velvet.
Yeah.
It creates that sense of formality and occasion.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, too, about like the purpose of the room,
Mm-hmm.
because do you think traditional design kind of leans towards making rooms less flexible in their
Oh,
function?
that's an interesting thought.
Like, for example, a formal dining room
Right.
might be used less than, say, a space that's a little bit more multifunctional.
I see what you mean.
So is that ever a concern, like when you're designing in this style?
That's a great question. And yeah, it's an important thing to think about. I mean,
Yeah.
traditional design does tend to favor those dedicated spaces,
Hmm.
but I think it reflects a different approach to living.
Okay.
It emphasizes being really intentional about how you use a space.
I see.
So you might have that formal dining room set aside just for special gatherings,
Okay.
and then a separate, more casual area for your everyday meals.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so it's fascinating how design can reflect not just what looks good,
Right.
but also the social practices and how people live their lives.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about something else that I think is really closely associated with traditional design, symmetry.
Yes,
It's often mentioned as a core principle. Can
absolutely.
you explain why it's so important and how it impacts the overall feeling of a space?
Yeah, symmetry is not just about aesthetics.
Yeah.
It has a psychological effect on us.
Oh, okay.
It creates this sense of order and balance, which is really calming
Mm-hmm.
and comforting in a space.
I see.
So think about a living room with a fireplace is that central point.
Okay.
You've got matching sofas on either side, carefully placed lamps,
Yeah.
and maybe artwork strategically positioned around it.
So it's almost like a visual representation of balance.
Exactly. It's like a visual harmony.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond furniture, too. Think about architectural elements like centered fireplaces,
Mm-hmm.
mirrored placements of things like sconces, and even symmetrical window treatments.
Oh, I like that.
That deliberate balance is what contributes to that overall feeling of order and harmony.
So it's not just things looking pretty, it's how the arrangement actually makes us feel.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. Okay, so let's move on to color.
Okay.
When I think of traditional interiors, I think of those rich, deep tones.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of stark white walls.
Right.
So am I on the right track?
You are absolutely on the right track.
Okay.
Traditional design definitely leans toward a warm and rich color palette.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of deep blues, like navy or indigo.
I sure.
Burgundy's common, forest green, gold accents.
Yeah, I love those.
And those colors are often grounded by more neutral tones, like cream, beige, or even a soft gray.
That makes sense. I guess I'm wondering, though, because I do love those colors, but do you ever worry about overdoing it
Right.
and making the room feel too heavy or too formal?
It definitely is a balancing act.
Yeah.
So the key is to use those colors strategically.
Okay.
Maybe you do an accent wall in a rich jewel tone,
Mm-hmm.
contrast that with lighter walls.
Okay.
Or you bring in those colors through textiles, accessories, things like that.
I see.
The idea is to create depth and warmth without making it feel oppressive.
That's a relief because I love those colors. But yeah, sometimes I feel like it can be a little much if you're not careful.
Definitely.
Okay, now let's talk about the architectural details. And this is something I really love about traditional design.
Hmm.
You know, those moldings, the cornices, wainscoting,
Yes,
they make a space feel so unique.
absolutely.
So can you break down some of these elements for us?
Yeah, these details are all about adding layers of texture and visual interest. So take crown molding, for example.
Yeah.
It's that decorative trim that runs along the top of a wall,
Okay.
right, where it meets the ceiling, and it instantly elevates the room, adds a touch of grandeur.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about wainscoting? I always love that.
Oh, yeah.
Is it just decorative or does it actually have a practical purpose?
That's a good question. Wainscoting's actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
It's a type of paneling that covers the lower portion of the wall,
Okay.
and historically it was practical, to protect the wall from damage.
Oh, that makes sense.
But nowadays it's mostly for looks.
Oh, okay. So it's a blend of form and function, just like
Exactly.
so many other things
Yeah, pretty much.
in traditional design. Now, what about are there different types of wainscoting?
Oh, there are tons.
Okay.
You've got raised panel wainscoting,
Mm-hmm.
which has those recessed panels surrounded by molding,
Okay.
adds a lot of dimension
Oh, I see.
and texture. And then you have beadboard wainscoting,
Mm-hmm.
which is made up of those narrow vertical planks.
I see.
Creates a more rustic or cottage style feel.
That's really interesting. It's amazing how those little details can have such a big impact
Oh, they totally can.
on the overall feeling of the room.
Yeah,
They really elevate the space.
they really do. And there's even more we could talk about, like chair rails and baseboards.
Right.
Each of those contributes to that distinctive charm of a traditional interior.
That's great. Now, how do we take all of these elements? I mean, because it does feel like a lot,
Yeah,
and create a cohesive and functional space?
right.
I imagine that can be a little overwhelming
It can be, for sure.
for people
Yeah.
who are trying to implement all of these different aspects.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's delve into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Perfect.
We'll explore how to apply those traditional principles room by room
Sounds good.
and how to create a cohesive and visually stunning space.
Awesome. I'm excited to continue our exploration.
Yeah, me too. Welcome back. So we've been talking about all these elements of traditional interior design.
We have.
And while it's beautiful,
Hmm.
I can also see how it can be a little intimidating
Right.
to actually implement. Where do you even begin?
It's true. Traditional design does often require more planning and consideration up front.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of its appeal.
Okay.
It encourages you to really be thoughtful about the space
Mm-hmm.
and how it reflects your values and your personality.
Now, before we get into specific rooms,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about the benefits
Go ahead.
of traditional design. We talked about the challenges, but what keeps people coming back to it,
Mm.
even with those potential drawbacks?
Well, I think one of the most compelling aspects is its timeless appeal.
Okay.
Traditional interiors really transcend trends.
Mm-hmm.
They always feel elegant and sophisticated, regardless of what the latest fads are.
Right. It's like investing in a classic wardrobe staple,
Exactly.
like a good blazer or the little black dress.
Yeah, that little black dress.
It
Exactly.
never really goes out of style.
And that timelessness also connects to the quality and craftsmanship
Oh, yeah.
that's inherent in those traditional pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So think about furniture made from solid wood,
Okay.
with hand-carved details, or a rug that's been woven using traditional techniques.
It's built to last.
They're made to last, and they actually get more beautiful with age.
Yeah. And it strikes me, too, that traditional design sort of fosters this connection to the past.
Absolutely.
And I think that sense of history can be really appealing.
It resonates with people, for sure.
Yeah.
Traditional interiors often evoke a sense of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're reminding you of a grandparent's home or a favorite historical place.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like surrounding yourself with pieces that have a story to tell.
That's really interesting. Now, I'm curious about sustainability within traditional design, because on one hand, we are talking about, high quality, durable pieces.
Right.
But isn't there also the potential to consume more resources?
Right.
So how do those two ideas kind of coexist?
It's a really important question,
Yeah.
and one I think about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually believe that traditional design aligns really well with the slow design movement,
Okay.
which is all about investing in pieces that are well made and meant to last for generations, rather than buying cheap disposable items.
Right, which just end up in a landfill.
Exactly.
So it's about being more conscious about your choices.
It really is about making conscious choices
Yeah.
and thinking about the lifespan and the environmental impact
Yeah.
of the things you bring into your home.
So seeking out antique or vintage pieces,
Absolutely.
supporting local artisans,
Yeah.
choosing sustainably sourced materials are
Well,
all really important
for
considerations.
sure.
Now that we've kind of covered some of those broader benefits,
Mm-hmm.
I'm eager to get into the specifics.
Okay.
Where does someone even start
Right.
when it comes to actually designing a traditional space?
Yeah, well, I always recommend gathering inspiration first.
Okay.
So browse magazines, websites, visit antique shops, museums,
Mm,
and pay attention to the elements that really speak to you.
okay.
It could be a particular type of furniture, a color combination, a specific architectural detail.
Okay.
So you're essentially creating like a mood board for your home.
So like a visual roadmap.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
your design journey.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so then once you have that vision,
Hmm.
what's next?
Well, then you can start to consider things like budget, space, and functionality.
Hmm.
Traditional design doesn't have to be expensive,
Okay.
but it's important to prioritize quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So invest in a few key pieces that you really love
Right.
that will last.
And that you'll want to keep for a long time.
Exactly.
And I imagine it's also important to personalize it, to
Absolutely.
make it feel like your own.
You don't want it to look like a museum,
Right, exactly.
So don't be afraid to mix and match different historical periods.
Okay.
Maybe incorporate some family heirlooms.
Mm-hmm.
Add in those unexpected elements that reflect your personal style.
So it really is about making the style your own.
Yeah, it's all about telling your story through the design.
I like that. Okay, so speaking of storytelling,
Okay.
I'd love to kind of walk through different rooms
Sure.
and hear how you would approach traditional design
Okay.
in each of those spaces. So let's start with the living room,
Okay.
the heart of the home,
Right?
where we gather with family and friends.
Yeah.
What are some of those key elements that would make a living room feel traditionally elegant,
Right.
but also welcoming?
Well, a fireplace often serves as the focal point
Yeah.
in a traditional living room.
Okay.
So imagine a beautifully carved mantel,
Oh, nice.
adorned with maybe some antique candlesticks,
Mm-hmm.
a collection of framed botanical tents.
Yeah.
Then, facing the fireplace, you might have a plush sofa,
Okay.
upholstered in a rich velvet, maybe a deep burgundy or navy,
I love that.
and then a pair of wingback chairs on either side.
Okay, so I'm already feeling cozy just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
I feel like those wingback chairs are essential
They're pretty iconic.
for a traditional living room.
They are.
But what is it about them that feels so
Hmm.
traditionally elegant?
Well, part of it is their history.
Okay.
They originated back in the 17th century,
Wow.
and they were actually designed to protect the sitter from drafts.
Oh, that's where they got the name.
Yeah, exactly. And they often feature these ornate details, like button tufting, nailhead trim, things like that.
So practical and beautiful.
Exactly. Form and function.
Yeah. What other pieces are essential?
Well, a statement coffee table
Yeah.
is a must-have.
Okay.
It could be a beautiful antique with some carved details,
Okay.
or even a glass top table where you can show off some family heirlooms.
Oh, I love that.
Or even a more modern piece with clean lines that complements the traditional furnishings.
So layering is important.
Yes.
Not just with furniture, but with textiles as well.
Absolutely. Think about a patterned area rug
Mm-hmm.
to define the space,
Okay.
luxurious drapes framing the windows,
Yes.
and an assortment of decorative pillows
I love it.
on the sofa and chairs.
It's all about those details.
It's all about the detail.
Now let's move on to the dining room.
Okay.
What makes a dining room feel traditionally elegant?
Well, you have to start with a classic wooden dining table.
Of course.
It could be a ground rectangular table with intricate carvings,
Okay.
or a round pedestal table, perfect for smaller gatherings,
Yeah.
or even an extendable table
Oh, that's smart.
that can accommodate both
Yeah.
large and small groups.
And surrounding the table, I'm envisioning those beautifully upholstered chairs.
Yes,
The
exactly.
chairs really set the tone.
Yeah.
For the dining experience, you can choose from all kinds of styles.
Okay.
From formal chairs with high backs and carvings
Mm-hmm.
to more casual chairs with upholstered seats and backs.
And we can't forget about the lighting.
Of course
A
not.
statement chandelier
Must have.
seems essential.
It adds that touch of grandeur.
Yeah.
Sets the mood for elegant meals. So many options to choose from.
Tons of options. You can go with a crystal chandelier, wrought iron,
Mm.
or even a modern interpretation of those traditional styles.
Now let's talk about the kitchen.
Okay.
Because that's a space that needs to be functional,
Right.
but can we still incorporate those traditional elements
That's how
without
they.
sacrificing practicality?
Yeah, it's a fun challenge, blending the aesthetics with the modern functionality.
Okay.
So think about custom cabinetry
Okay.
with intricate details like beadboard paneling
Yeah.
or glass front doors that show off beautiful china.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
Now, what about countertops and backsplashes?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What materials work well in a traditional kitchen?
Natural materials are always a good bet.
Okay.
Granite, marble, soapstone, those are all great choices for countertops.
Yeah.
For the backsplash, you could do subway tile,
Mm-hmm.
decorative ceramic tile,
I see.
or even a beadboard backsplash to tie in with the cabinetry.
Lots of different options.
Yeah, lots of possibility.
It sounds like there are plenty of ways to create a kitchen that feels both timeless and functional.
For sure.
Yeah, we've covered the living room,
Yes.
dining room, and the kitchen.
We have.
What about the bedroom?
Okay.
How do we create that same traditional elegance
Mhm.
in a more private space?
Well, a bedroom designed in the traditional style should feel like a sanctuary.
Oh, yeah.
So think about a stately wooden bed frame as the centerpiece.
Okay.
Maybe with a canopy or an upholstered
I
headboard.
love that.
Yeah, and then beside the bed, those elegant matching nightstands
Yes.
with beautiful table lamps.
Yeah.
Creates that sense of symmetry and balance.
And of course, we can't forget the textiles.
Oh, the textiles are key.
A plush area rug, heavy drapes, a
Absolutely.
cozy throw blanket on the bed.
All of that adds to the warmth and comfort.
This has been fascinating.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface
We've only just begun.
of traditional interior design.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore.
So in the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into even more nuanced aspects.
Okay,
We'll talk about accessorizing, mixing traditional and modern elements,
that's great.
and ensuring your space reflects your unique personalities.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. We'll be back with part 3 to wrap up our deep dive
Sounds good.
into this timeless and elegant style. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're on the final part of our exploration of traditional interior design, and I'm ready for those final intriguing aspects you mentioned.
Well, we've covered a lot
Mhm.
from history to key elements and everything, but there are some finer points
Okay.
that can really take a traditional interior
Mm-hmm.
from simply beautiful to truly exceptional.
What comes to mind?
One thing I often see is this misconception that traditional design has to be formal
Oh, okay.
and stuffy.
Right.
People see those really grand, opulent spaces
Yeah.
in those fancy magazines,
Mm-hmm.
and they think it's not a style for everyday living, which isn't true at all.
Yeah, it's easy to see it as this very specific lifestyle
Right.
that maybe isn't attainable or even desirable to a lot of people.
And that's where personal interpretation comes in.
Okay.
Traditional design can be just as cozy and casual as any other style.
How do you find that balance then
It's all about the choices you make and how you incorporate the different elements.
between elegance and livability? Like, how do you make sure that a space feels
Right.
warm and inviting
Right.
and not like a museum?
Comfort is key.
Okay.
Choose furniture that's both beautiful and functional.
Yeah.
Opt for sofas and armchairs that you actually want to sink into.
Right.
Layer in cozy throws and pillows. Think about the flow of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Create seating arrangements that encourage conversation and relaxation.
Yeah, it should be a space where you can live
Exactly.
and not just look at. It
No.
reminds me of those rooms that are like perfectly styled for a photo shoot,
Yes.
but maybe not that comfortable to actually live in.
It's a good point. So don't be afraid to break the rules a little bit.
Okay.
Traditional design doesn't have to be rigid.
Mm-hmm.
You can mix and match different historical periods, incorporate pieces that have personal meaning to you,
Okay.
add unexpected elements to make the space feel unique and reflect your individual style.
So it's about making it your own.
Exactly. Inject your personality into the design.
And speaking of personality,
Yes.
let's talk about accessories.
Accessories, they are what truly bring a traditional interior to life.
I'm always up for a good accessory moment.
Me too. They're those finishing touches that add depth and character.
So what kind of pieces can really elevate a traditional space?
Look for things that add a touch of history
Okay.
and personality, so antique books, vintage artwork,
Yeah.
porcelain vases, silver candlesticks, things that tell a story.
Right.
Group them together to create little vignettes,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's on a mantle, bookshelf, or a side table.
It's like how we add personality to our outfits.
Exactly.
Like a beautiful scarf or a statement piece of jewelry.
Yes, it's all about those
A
details.
perfect handbag can completely transform a look.
Exactly. And don't forget about textiles.
Oh, yes, the textiles.
Traditional design loves rich fabrics, velvet, silk, brocade, tapestry.
Hmm.
You can use those in drapes, upholstery, throw pillows, even area rugs.
Yeah, it's about creating that sense of depth and visual richness
Exactly.
that feels both cozy and elegant.
Exactly. Now, we talked about honoring the past with traditional design,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering how it intersects with modern life.
Hmm.
Is there a way to incorporate modern elements without losing that traditional aesthetic?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I think that's something a lot of people are curious about.
And the answer is a resounding yes.
Okay.
One of the most exciting things happening in traditional design right now
Okay.
is this blending with modern touches.
Hmm.
It's all about creating a space that feels fresh and relevant while still honoring those traditional principles.
Do you have any examples of what that might look like? Because I'm having trouble picturing it.
Sure. Imagine a traditional living room,
Okay.
classic fireplace, ornate moldings, maybe a beautiful antique rug.
Mm-hmm.
Now introduce a contemporary sofa with clean lines
Okay.
and pair it with vintage armchairs.
I see.
That juxtaposition creates a really dynamic and visually interesting space.
So it's about adapting it
Yeah,
to suit our modern lives.
exactly. It's like how fashion designers reinterpret vintage styles
Right.
to create something new and exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we touched on sustainability earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's such an important consideration
It is.
that I want to circle back to it.
Yeah, and I think with people being so focused on mindful consumption these days,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's definitely a key factor to consider.
One approach is to prioritize quality over quantity,
Okay.
involved in those well-made pieces that are built to last,
Yeah,
even if it means buying fewer things.
right.
Choose natural materials whenever possible,
Mm-hmm.
and really think about the lifespan and the end-of-life impact of your choices.
Yeah, so it's about making those conscious choices
It really is.
at every step of the design process.
Absolutely.
So not just thinking about what looks good,
Right.
but the environmental impact.
Traditional design isn't just about beautiful vases, it's about sustainable and responsible spaces.
That's great. So as we wrap up our deep dive,
Mhm.
what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I want them to understand that traditional design is more than just a style.
Okay.
It's a philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about embracing beauty, craftsmanship, and a sense of history.
Yeah.
It's about creating a space that feels elegant and inviting, a space that tells a story and reflects your unique personality.
Surrounding yourself with pieces that you love and that will be enjoyed for years to come.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us and sharing your insights and expertise.
It's been my pleasure.
This has been a wonderful deep dive into traditional interior design. We hope you've enjoyed this journey with us.
I hope so.
Well, we'll see you next time for another deep dive into a topic you're passionate about.